What can a Century 21 agent do for you? They open your home, solve your problems and pat your dog. They provide the service of a butler and the savvy of a business tycoon. Century 21 agents. Smarter, bolder, faster.
Welcome back to Your Property Empire. Now, joining me on the show tonight is Jeremy Hubbard, Head of Digital at Ubank, and we've just been joined by Charles Tarbey, Chairman and Owner of Century 21 Australasia. Now, statistics would suggest that society is becoming more reliant on digital shopping. So, do we think customers really want a fully digital experience when it comes to their home loan, or do they need face-to-face reassurance and advice? Charles, as well as in property, you're in the mortgage business as well.
Yeah, it would be very nice if the process was put in place totally. I know there's still a lot of work to do, but it would be fantastic. But a lot of people actually don't want to talk to their bank to start with, which is why most of them go to brokers. And it's a very drawn-out process. When a broker goes to see a client, they really do have to spend a lot of time with them getting the paperwork done. The biggest issue, I guess, is making sure that it's foolproof and getting the paperwork done. Then with all of the activities that have gone on, or the so-called fraudulent activities that have gone on in the discovery in southwest Sydney, those are the issues, I think, that probably present a challenge more than anything else. But it would be fantastic if that process was completely streamlined.
Because how would you like a business where you don't see your customers?
Oh, it'd be boring, wouldn't it? You've got to go and see them for something, even if it's just to celebrate at the end of it all, Chris. But you've got to go and see them at some point.
So, I guess a few of us can assume what a digital mortgage looks like, but do you want to maybe explain it, just in case we're probably missing quite a few things?
Yeah, sure. So it's probably not dissimilar to some of the other online offerings, particularly in the financial space. So you start your application online, fill in some questions online, get a preliminary decision in terms of the credit decision. At which point, depending obviously on the outcome of that decision, we proceed with valuation and then really just the source document verification. So these are all pretty much the steps that that you use in a traditional sense, just done in an online way. Some of those steps are definitely faster than the traditional way, and there's still some work to do.
Is there a requirement that you have to meet the individuals at some stage? Is that requirement still in place?
No, certainly that's not in place. And we did talk about earlier, what is in place is the need for a physical signature on the mortgage document and the verification of those source documents, but that can be done digitally.
Because I had to do something in First Direct, which is a UK bank that is all online as well. They got me to redo my identity thing, and they booked a time in, and I had to show my passport up to the camera on my
Okay.
But again, it's actually pretty efficient. Rather than getting someone to certify it and send it in, it's, well, the bank books the appointment, so that's a great way if you're busy.
Yeah, absolutely, and we're really seeing in the identity space some good innovation. As Chris has just mentioned, that's one example. The really great thing from a security perspective about electronic identity verification is it's not possible for someone to fabricate an identity. So we assess and validate specific details about that customer, such as their Medicare number, driver's license number, etc. So from a security perspective, unlike in a traditional method, you can't have a fake Medicare number.
You could get so much more done using that process. I think a lot of the brokers still meet people face to face because a lot of people, they're not sure of the process. Even filling out forms, they struggle with that. So there's still that human component. And it's like real estate transaction. You can buy a property online, and we talked about that last week, whether you might or you might not. And in certain circumstances, it's a fairly easy process. But again, most people like to either cite the property or speak with an agent or somewhere along the line. If there's a help desk that might be able to be applied to it in a similar fashion or in addition to it, it would really streamline the process.
So if the banks are going, say, all digital now, do you see the mortgage broking industry changing as well?
I think it'll move with it, like the real estate industry's move with the digital age, and you'll just find ways through it, around it. You might have less people doing face-to-face and more people doing admin. It'll just change the way in which business is done. At some point in time, especially with a loan, which can be quite substantial, some people just need that human touch, just a tap on the shoulder to say it's all done, it's all fine.
Now, you must be collecting so much data from all of these kind of customers. What are some of the stuff that you're going to do with that data?
Yeah, I think banks traditionally we've been collecting this data, for some time, and traditionally it's been used quite a lot for internal reporting purposes. With the technology advancements in recent years, we're really using that to analyse in detail that data and drive out customer insights, so value-added insights that we can share with our customers and additional services that we can offer them as well.
Yeah, no, sounds good. Charles, in terms of, I guess, people getting into that data, do you think consumers are worried about doing things, say, certainly online rather than maybe the older people?
There are plenty of people that are still confused by it. You just don't know. I see people even going on Facebook and they think they're being scammed because somebody's put something on Facebook, and it starts this whole process going. I mean, when the Australian government was giving away all that money, Jeremy, how much was it? Chris, did you get your $1,000, was it?
Yeah, I was trying to buy my TV with it, but someone in our house spent it before I could get it.
Well, when you mentally picture this, I know it was a bit of a joke, but when this was all happening, there were people around the world getting emails that they've got money, and there were people in Nigeria thinking, hey, we started this stunt, don't fool us. And I don't think they got their $1,000 when they should have. So it's still a bit nerve-wracking for some people out there to give all their details. But, if you've got somebody that can guide you through it, I think you still probably need a little bit of human touch. Wouldn't go astray right now, initially.
Certainly a changing world. Well, let's see if the auction numbers are changing at the moment.
Yeah,
what's the news on the market?
It's not that scary. It's not as scary. We've got another seminar coming out. Mr. Harry Dent's out again.
Oh, right.
Yes. And
so we're ready for another crash, are we? Because he's selling seminars or selling books?
There's a little film clip that says there's going to be a problem in this, and it cuts. So you've got to go to the seminar to find out what area. Auction clearance rates for the week was 71.2%, still pretty solid. Last year was 75.9%, so not a lot of difference. They're all doing okay. Sydney market wasn't the best, but Sydney market was good at 75.5% clearance rate, followed by Melbourne at 72.3%. But the best performer in the last 3 weeks in a row has been Canberra. We talked about this before. Now, with what's going on in government right now, who knows what might happen in Canberra, but the clearance rates in Canberra was 76.3%, so best from all of the capital cities was Canberra.
Right, sounds good. Now, we haven't got homes advertised for sale this week, so we'll move on to
yes,
rent price movements.
We've upset everybody at realestate.com. There are no homes for sale this week, Chris. So we'll move straight on to the... was it rentals?
Rentals, yeah.
Sydney performed well. It's up 0.56% or 0.5% over this time last week. Darwin was Northern Territory was a bit of a concern. That's gone negative 0.88%. But the outstanding performer of the week, you'll love this one, is Tasmania at plus 1.19% increase in rentals. That's a pretty big jump. I don't think I've seen one that high. Overall, all of the states across and regions across Australia was up 0.71%. So overall, the rents have climbed since the start of the year by 1.68%. So it's healthy. It's not in the bad area at all.
And then what about when it comes to vacancy rates?
Yeah, they climbed just a little bit in some areas. Sydney was the best performer at 1.42%, and then followed by Melbourne. That came in at 3.74%. Perth climbed up. It was under the sixes. It's jumped up again to 6.55. Now, again, those three capital cities collectively are 3.9% in vacancy rates. That's not bad, keeping it under 4%. Just keep an eye on Perth. It's been up and down, and I'd like to think that it comes back pretty soon.
Right, OK. So generally all pretty healthy out there.
All healthy, yes.
Sounds good. Now, I just went through a refinance about 2 weeks ago and had a whole boardroom table of all these papers and all the rest of it. What's standing in the way of kind of fully digitised mortgages? Yeah,
and that's one of the big challenges at the moment, and we touched on earlier the verification of source documents, which is the part where you're trying to verify your income, except or the bank is trying to verify your income. I think the big change that's going to happen in the coming years is moving that to a completely digital solution where we get the verification of income, for example, directly via a technical interface where we get that data and pull that in rather than waiting for a physical document to come in. And we also touched on earlier, I think there's some regulation or regulatory changes that need to take place in order to get that fully digital mortgage.
It'd be great to see it streamlined. I know Chris will be happy when he goes for a refinance that he won't have to talk to any banker ever again. Wouldn't that be lovely, Chris?
Now, say from your perspective, because obviously you're dealing with the real estate agents and the brokers all the time, do you think that there is going to be a time where everything is pretty much online and people will just try and get more and more efficient, and there's no point going into a bank these days.
I think the efficiency aspect is definitely on its way. It really is that verification aspect. People will find a way around it, and then they'll start all different types of legislation all over again. But it has streamlined. Everything has streamlined. If you remember going back, you had to have a solicitor who had an allocation from a bank before you could get a loan. If you didn't have a relationship with that solicitor and they only had a certain number of loans, you couldn't get a loan at all, going back years ago. So the process has progressively been streamlined over the years, and the digital aspect of it really needed to come into play.
And I guess there's always going to be people out saying, no, that the banks are here to stay and nothing's going to change. But just like the taxi industry and Uber, is before they know it, some young guns come along and suddenly say, no, there's a better way of doing it.
I'm sure there are a few taxi drivers that set themselves up under Uber somehow, somewhere. I'm sure that they'll make the adjustment.
Now, is there anyone kind of either within Australia or internationally that's really kind of taken this on and is out there doing these fully digital mortgages?
I think, well, certainly in Australia, UBank has been leading the way since 2011 in terms of being the closest we can get to having a digital mortgage. Globally, particularly in the US and the UK now, there's really a bit of a movement in the digital mortgage space, and there'll be a handful of companies globally right now that are offering a fully digital mortgage.
Yeah.
It'd be a lot harder in a lot of the other countries, because we all know that Australia has got the clearest title you can get on a property. I mean, Torrance Title was developed in Adelaide. It's streamlined the way in which title is completed in Australia, and I can't recall any case of title insurance coming into Australia, whereas globally it's a very, very big part of the transaction.
Wonderful. Well, Jeremy, thanks for joining us on the show this evening, and we'll certainly watch the space and see how it all comes up. Good to see you as well, Charles.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks for joining us this evening. Until next week, I'm Chris Gray. Good night.
The information featured in this program is general in nature and therefore should not be relied upon. Guests appearing on the program may have commercial arrangements with some of the companies mentioned. Before making any investment, insurance or financial planning decisions, you should consult a licensed professional who can advise whether your decision is appropriate for you.